You guys know in the front of the Lego movie there when it's everything is awesome. Well, in archery, everything's a rabbit hole. Okay, sorry, not sorry. Comment kind of struck me, so let's just break it down as much as possible in the allowed time that I have. 3 fletch versus 4 fletch. 4 fletch is cool. Hands down cool. It gives you all kinds of options. In this build, I kind of put my cock vane towards me. I'd be shooting it like this, right? And then, yeah, so that gives me just, it's an option, right? Now, this arrow build, this is a 204 shaft, boning heats, which I am a big fan of. No lighted nocks, okay? No arrow wraps. And then some Ethics Archery high FOC stuff. This is a 650 grain build, and I think it ended up being right about 19%. Let's step into FOC and what I like, because ultimately it's what I like. I'm not telling you what you should like. I'm just going to tell you with 31 years experience what works for me. Now, when it comes down to it, FOC is great, but it's like anything else, you can have too much of it. What are the benefits of FOC? At a certain point, okay, the bow shoots and it moves your arrow, right? But at a certain point downrange, the weight on the front of the arrow starts pulling that arrow. So the higher FOC you have, the more your arrow gets pulled downrange. And even though you lose speed at a rate of 30 grains per 10 feet per second, generally, you still will see the benefits of a higher FOC build downrange and not really losing a lot of speed. I know people think once you start building high FOC arrows that they just come to the end of the shelf and they just fall off. And, you know, your pin gap's going to be like this. It's not the truth. I've built arrows up to 850 grains. And I've hunted with 350 grains, and I've hunted with 700 grains, and ultimately I've killed with all of them. Pin gap is still pin gap. You have to figure out what works for you. Me in southern Indiana, with my average shots being about 18 yards and my furthest shots being about 35, I hunt with 2 pins. And to me, it doesn't matter if those 2 pins are touching or if they are 3/8 of an inch apart. I simply accept that setup for what it is, and I make it work. In my opinion, FOC does a lot of things. Broadhead stability being paramount and arrow flight being paramount, FOC also decreases the noise of your equipment. Now, how FOC makes stability over other setups is by adding weight to the front of the arrow. Let's look at, let me grab a different arrow here that's easier to see. Arrow deflection. Okay, you can see that arrow wants to bend right here in the middle. But if I put a bunch of weight on the front of it and I shoot it with a bow, during the high speed, you would see that that arrow wouldn't bend so much here. It would bend actually closer to the front. Why would that be a good thing? Well, it's actually decreasing the amount that this broadhead goes off of plane. So instead of it flexing here and this broadhead moving off of plane drastically, now the arrow flexes here and it only goes off of plane a little bit. Higher FOC arrows with a proper dynamic spine shaft still recover quickly downrange, or, you know, a couple feet out in front of the arrow, but they become more stable quicker. Now, by having that flex point a lot further from the fletchings, it actually allows your fletchings to have a longer fulcrum, and every little inconsistency is now minimalized because your fletchings have a longer lever arm to work. When we talk about arrow builds, I personally prefer a 3 fletch. Now, I've built 4 fletch before, love them, they're cool. I've put wraps on them, I've put lighted nocks, and while a lighted nock is absolutely a useful tool, you have to realize that every single grain that you add to the back of your arrow decreases the FOC on the front of your arrow, which is a bad thing. At a rate of about like 3 to 4 to 1, something like that. And now in this latest field build, or a target arrow build, all right, 350 grains, 110 grains up front, doesn't seem like a lot, right? But when you look at this is a 6.8 or 6.9 GPI shaft, and I went ultra light back here. Could have went a little bit lighter weight, actually. I maintained my FOC and actually have 10.7 or something like FOC on this arrow build. Now, is FOC important in target archery? Yeah, it is. Because it's still stabilizing the front of your arrow. Even though it's not having to compensate for broadhead design, the stabilization of the front of your arrow increases the tightness of your groups, and, well, that leads to higher scores. I know this is a lot to unfold all in one discussion, so you're probably going to have to watch it again. Now, when it comes to FOC, I personally don't take part in extreme FOC. My hunting setups are usually right in that 500 to 550 grain window. I love the 5 millimeter, even the 6 millimeter stuff. 204s are awesome. And, well, I try not to complicate things.